TGIF, what's going on, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and I'm here with two awesome Sprint Android handsets. One is the Motorola PHOTON 4G, came out on July 31st, and it's arguably Sprint's best Android handset. It competes directly with the Evo 3D, and it has a dual-core 1 GHz NVIDIA Tegra 2 processor, global roaming capabilities, Android 2.3, and it even has that kickstand on the back the Evo 4G lovers have. Then you have the stock Android experience. You have the Google Nexus S 4G over here, 1 GHz single core, so a little bit less powerful, but you get the vanilla Android experience over here. 5 megapixel camera, front facing camera, and so Android 2.3 is preloaded on both of these devices. Which one's the best? Well, it's going to depend a lot on what you prefer. We're going to do a dogfight to see which one has the best balance of features and performance. First, special thanks to our friends at Best Buy. They always hook us up with phones that we give to you. And the One Paw Bandit game, when you go into Best Buy to get either of these devices, they'll help you set up your email, your web. It's a little program they like to call Walkout Working, and they'll get you set up and ready to go. But enough of that, let's get into it. Dogfight, Photon, Nexus S 4G. Which one's going to win? Let's go find out. You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I imagine Android enthusiasts that aren't on Sprint looking over to the nation's third largest wireless carrier and saying, dang, they have quite an Android lineup of devices. Let's be honest. Motorola PHOTON 4G, Google Nexus S 4G, HTC Evo 3D, which is the successor to the HTC Evo 4G, a very popular handset that still sells well today and is still available in most markets. So simply put, fantastic Android lineup on Sprint, a huge improvement over where they were 3, 4, 5 years ago in the handset line. Here's the Motorola PHOTON 4G, 1 GHz dual-core NVIDIA Tegra 2 processor over here, 4.3-inch display. I mean, this thing's the bee's knees when it comes to features. Like 1 GHz dual-core processor, 4.3-inch PenTile QHD display, 8-megapixel camera on the back with a front-facing camera for video calling and stuff like that on the front. Android 2.3, so Gingerbread pre-installed out of the box, and it has the newest build of Motorola's applications platform. So it's not Moto Blur anymore. Don't let them hear you call it Moto Blur. They changed the name. It's really still kind of Blur, but they don't want you to call it that. So I'm going to do my best in the video not to call it that. But simply put, you know, Blur has this connotation. I hated Moto Blur when it was out. It's a huge improvement over what Moto Blur used to be. And then you have the Nexus S 4G over here, 1 GHz, and it's really unchanged from the GSM version with the exception of one thing. It has that single core 1 GHz Hummingbird processor, 5 megapixel camera on the back, which surprisingly doesn't shoot video in HD. It has a front-facing camera, has Android 2.3. Now, where it really wins for a lot of people, or a lot of Android enthusiasts at least, it has a stock build of Android 2.3. So you can see here, this is what Android 2.3 is supposed to look like at the core. You can see no Sprint pre-installed applications. It's a Google Experience device. And yeah, sure, the new Nexuses are on the way out, or, you know, they're being rumored, and I'm sure at some point this year, the new Nexus, Nexi, whatever you want to call it, will be coming out, the ice cream sandwich build that's been rumored for several months. But this one's still good, and if you caught that sale at Best Buy a couple of weeks ago, they were giving away Nexus S and Nexus S 4Gs for free for one day only. So if you got that, that's pretty cool. Congratulations there. But like I said, 8-megapixel camera over here. And when it comes to features, kickstand, this also has global roaming capabilities. So it's Sprint's first 4G device. And I should point out as well, it's Motorola's first 4G WiMAX device they've ever made for Sprint. But it also has global roaming capabilities via a SIM card slot in the back. And I'm not going to take the battery cover off because it takes way too long to put back on. But there's a SIM card slot back there. You can access your phone number when you're traveling overseas, or Sprint's pretty good about unlocking, so the rumor goes at least, so you can take it overseas, pop in a Vodafone SIM card, an Orange SIM card, whatever, and utilize your device without paying Sprint an arm and a leg for service. But it has that feature, which is really cool, because used to, you know, you'd have the Evo 4G, and I actually advised a friend of mine that travels worldwide quite a bit, and I do as well. You know, you carry something like the Evo 4G, and then you have to go back to the BlackBerry Bold 9650 when you traveled, or something of that nature. It was a huge step down. Not the case anymore with this. But this one's available for $199.99 right now. This one honestly fluctuates. I think it's $99.99 right now on Sprint and through official Sprint channels. But I've seen it, you know, go as low as free at Best Buy. I've seen it go, you know, it started at $199 and it's kind of fluctuated in between. So check your local store for prices on the Nexus S 4G. But both have WiMAX capabilities, and they're both running Android 2.3. But you can see here, just by doing things like the notifications bar, you can see here that the interfaces are dramatically different. This is stock Android 2.3, like I said. This is Android 2.3 with Motorola's custom UI, and I should point out as well, it has a 4-inch Super AMOLED Plus display. So what's particularly interesting about the displays, this has PenTile, which you'll notice right out of the gate, you know, noticeably brighter and easier to read in the sunlight, and the viewing angles are much better. So you can hold it up and see kind of an idea what I mean there with the viewing angles. It's kind of hard to read the Nexus S 4G at the angle, but you can still see how bright it is over there, even at that, you know, let's say 60 degree, 70 degree angle. This one is curved though. It does have a curved display, so you can see over here it's kind of a curved display, and then it has a typical Samsung hump in the back, and it's typical plastic feel that you'd know from either love or hate from Samsung. Volume rocker over here on the left side, micro USB charging port, 3.5mm headphone jack on the bottom, and then you have your power button over here, and then nothing up top. 1,500 milliamp hour battery over here, so you get 1,500 milliamp hour battery over here, and then you get a 1,650 milliamp hour battery in the Photon 4G. So 1,650, 1,500 here. But let's take a look. You know, this is a non-Google experience device, so you're going to see a lot of Sprint stuff and a lot of Motorola stuff pre-installed. That said, most of it, Sprint's really listened to their customers, and most of it's uninstallable. You can see over here Motorola's accounts, which is kind of, you know, looks like blur, and you can see changes from, you know, blur-based devices like the Devour, or even some of the ones that were running a lower version, you know, kind of a less intrusive version like the Droid X. Remember when it came out? You'll notice that the icons are different. Camcorder, camera, browser, all non-stock Android devices. And then you have down here Sprint NASCAR Speed Cup Mobile, or Sprint Cup Mobile, excuse me, and then you have Quick Office pre-installed. You have Sprint ID, which I thought was pretty interesting. You know, that was kind of something that I thought was going to be reserved for some of the low-end handsets. But you have Sprint Mobile Wallet, Music Plus, Radio, TV, Movies, Worldwide Zone, and then you have Telenav as well. Now the benefit here, and this is something you can do in Motorola's applications platform, which is what this is called. You don't want Sprint Radio, press and hold, and you can uninstall it, and it'll kick you right to the uninstall screen. So Sprint's done a pretty good job. Most of their stuff can be uninstalled, with the exception of, I believe, Sprint ID. Yeah, Sprint ID and Sprint Worldwide are the two that can't be uninstalled. I feel like Sprint Zone is the same. Yeah, you can't uninstall that either, but you can install quite a bit of that. Now you can see up here in Motorola's applications platform, it groups them by folders. You can group by all apps, recent, downloaded. I can go directly to Sprint so you can see the bloatware that's pre-installed. I can also create my own by going in here and going to new groups. So if I wanted to put Aaron's Cool Apps that everybody should use, I can create a folder called Aaron's Cool Apps that everybody should use, and it'll pop up there underneath all that, and I can change the icon. So some really cool customization options, and this really follows as well in the original Blur sense in the fact that it has Motorola and Android widgets, and the Motorola widgets, not to spend too much time on this, but we'll go into Calendar, for example, and we'll see here. They're customizable. So you get into a really tight screen. I don't think I have any on here at the moment. Well, let's do this one, for example. We'll bring Calendar over here, and let's say, you know, I want to make it a little bit larger. I can make it larger if I want to. I can customize the size. I can bring it down here if I wanted to, and get rid of, just for the sake of showing you this, let me get rid of the 4G, because you can do this. I just have to customize it. There we go. And so I can bring that 4G back. So anytime you're in an area where it's a tight space, you know, HTC Sense has some wonderful widgets. TouchWiz 4 has some wonderful widgets, but you can't customize the size. So if it doesn't fit on the screen, you're kind of stuck. But anyway, you see this iOS-like dock down here, kind of iOS-ish / TouchWiz dock with 4 icons. You know, you access your app drawer there, and you can customize these to whatever you want. So if you wanted to bring down Maps, for example, and replace Browser, you can edit the dock and replace it with Maps, so that's down there. So you can make some, you know, all the customizations you want to. Replace it with Music, and go back over. 7 home screens on this one, 5 home screens on the stock Android experience. And again, this is how Android is supposed to look. And you can see down here the little dots. I can press and hold, and that'll bring up my 5 home screens, and I can instantly go to one or the other. Whereas on the Motorola applications platform, I can press home twice or press home again once I'm there on the main screen, and I can access all 7 from there. I can't pinch to zoom on this one, but you can access that way. Now you notice the notification bars are different as well, and this is something I happen to like. You know, you look at this, for example, and you see that, let's say voicemail. Actually, that's probably not the best. Let me go back here. Let's just say, hypothetically, there are, you know, emails, messages, and missed calls, and I open up both my notification bars, and they're in here. Well, on the stock Android experience, on Sense, and on TouchWiz, and somebody actually recommended something on Sense that I need to try out, but you either have the option of clearing all or clearing none of them. So you can either leave them all up here, you can press the clear button and get rid of them all. Well, on the Motorola version, there are little red minus signs that appear between each notification, where if you wanted to, let's say you read the messages, you can get rid of those, but you can leave the calls, the app updates, and something else in there so you know to do those later. So it's just, you know, it's really customizable. I like that. They've really done a good job. They've listened and actually come up with some pretty innovative things on the Photon 4G. Another thing that's really killer about this one, just speaking really quickly about Sprint's network, and I'll talk more about this in part 2 of the video, too, but the wireless radio and the Photon, best wireless radio I've ever worked with on Sprint. It blows the Nexus S 4G out of the water, blows the Evo 3D out of the water, blows any other high-end device on Sprint that I've ever worked with out of the water. If you're in a fringe coverage area, you travel a lot, reception is the most important thing to you, the Photon is going to be your device because it just has a phenomenal wireless radio. Call quality, some of the best I've ever seen on a mobile device, and when I took it to a Sprint dead spot where it's typically 0, maybe 1 bar of service, or 1 bar of service rather, this had 2, sometimes 3. So it was pretty impressive. And again, if calling's your thing and you really rely on a good signal, the Photon's going to be your device. On this device, you have your micro USB charging port, an HDMI port over here on the left side, and then you have your volume rocker, and you have your camera shortcut button. It's interesting because these are kind of IDEN. These devices remind me a lot, or the Photon at least reminds me a lot of an IDEN device. Actually, at first glance, it looks like something you would see on the Nextel side. So kind of an interesting design choice, a little bit more brash, but you have your power button, 3.5mm headphone jack up there at the top, and then of course your kickstand on the back. Now kicking out the kickstand activates the dock mode, or the clock mode rather, so you can sit it there, in your hotel when you go to sleep. It brings up weather and alarms, active alarms, and the clock, so you can pop it down there on the table, and it serves as an alarm clock while you're traveling. So nice to have the kickstand. It does not, the charger's on this side, so you can't turn the kickstand this way while you're charging the device. The solution that people have come up with in the forums is to turn the kickstand upside down because it actually supports the device even when it's upside down. You can see it's not ideal, but it still supports the device. Let's take a look at messaging on both of these devices and see the keyboards, and we'll go into it. I actually removed my shortcut. I want to make sure that I was using this earlier, testing it on my personal phone, so obviously I don't want that number to be on the videos. Yep, there it is. Let's delete that, and then let's go into messaging. So here's our messaging, and we'll say the quick brown fox loves peanut butter. And that's just my spelling failure today. So it has Motorola's multi-touch keyboard. It also has swipe pre-installed out of the box. If you prefer swipe, you have that option. But the multi-touch keyboard's fantastic. I'm just not typing efficiently today. The quick brown fix apparently, loves peanut butter, and you can use it in landscape mode as well. Now the real benefit with this one as opposed to this one, that little bit of screen real estate really helps for people that have large thumbs. So if you're somebody that maybe is migrating from a physical QWERTY keyboard, from a BlackBerry, let's say, a Droid 3, Droid 2, whatever, over to the Photon 4G, you're going to want the bigger screen to help you adjust to the touchscreen only functionality. So you have that over here. Over here, you have, let me remove these as well. I've been using these apparently quite a bit. And we'll go over here to new message. And you get the stock Gingerbread keyboard, which is a difference from the Android 2.2 keyboard. You can see some changes here on this one. Keys are a little bit more square, and then it only comes with the Android keyboard. Now, let's give this one a go. The quick brown fox. Ooh, that's a failure. Quick brown fox loves jelly. Quick brown fox loves, so you have one that loves peanut butter and one that loves jelly. That's a perfect mix. But you can see here, 4-inch display, and these keys, just to me, the Gingerbread keyboard takes some time to get used to. If you're coming from something else, the multi-touch keyboard, pretty easy to pick up on, a lot like the iOS keyboard. This one I feel like it takes a little bit more time. And for whatever reason, maybe this is just me, it just does not feel as accurate as the GSM Nexus S keyboard. I know that sounds weird, probably a mental thing, but still just pointing that out. I feel like it doesn't keep up quite as well, but you can see the quick brown fox. I don't know why it's having issues, but you get the idea. Keyboards on both of these devices are fine, but I would give the edge to the Photon 4G in the keyboard test.